Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out why I will never use the metric system.
You know how many feet there are in a mile?
3,000 something.
This is the moment I realized I will never use the metric system.
Okay, let's see how far you can jump. Ready?
My 6-year-old is constantly asking me to measure how far he can jump.
Okay, I'm gonna count it. Ready, set.
That's
And
annoying.
inevitably, this ends up happening.
Okay, stay there, stay there. 1, 2, 3. That was 2 meters.
No, it was 6. No, remember you got
Oh, 6 feet. Yeah. Oh, woof.
Yeah.
His son's already in it. His son's already in the system.
The entire world uses the same measuring system, except for 3 countries. So you have the richest, most powerful country, and then you have this small African nation that the US kind of invented to like ship slaves back to. It's a weird situation that I made a whole video about. Totally different. And then you have Myanmar, a Southeast Asian country that used to be called Burma. You don't see maps like this very often, where the whole world is one color, and then you have 3 random countries peppered across the globe that are a different color. And I'm looking at you, Britain. I know that you're green on this map, but we all know you still kind of dabble in pounds and
pints. Pints. You guys, come on now. What better measurement is there than that? You know. I forgive you. I came on aggressively with that, but it was love. It was love I'm putting out at you. I love you. Just know, I can't see you. I'm looking at a camera, okay? Let's not get weird.
you still kind of dabble in pounds and pints and miles. I want to show you exactly how this happened and show you why I will never use the metric system.
If somebody runs a 5K, I have no idea what that translates into miles.
1,000 two-step paces of a Roman soldier.
We have no reason to be ashamed for using feet.
That guy.
Now, many
That guy.
calculations are merely a matter of moving the decimal
That guy.
It's one of the great things about Americans is we won't change no matter how good it would be for us.
That's true. Yeah, okay. I'm interested to hear what he has to say because I think the metric system is great and that we should transfer to it, right? It seems more accurate. It makes sense.
The first thing humans measured was time. Think of like sun, moon, stars, sundials, constellations. This was pretty easy because we're all looking up at the same night sky. It basically does the same thing every day and every night. Totally reliable and unchanging. Measuring stuff like weight and length is way harder, and for a long time the best thing we had was our bodies.
Humans are about this big. So we've always wanted a unit of measurement about this long.
The earliest unit of measurement that we know of is the cubit, which
I miss
was
Bill Nye.
basically the length of a forearm. Not super precise because we all have different sized forearms, but it got the job done, at least in the case.
I'm gonna measure my forearm. How do you do that? 10 inches. Oh, how many, 25 centimeters? 26 centimeters? There are no actual units of measurement notated on this, so I don't know what it is.
Case of building giant pyramids in Cairo, or in Noah's Ark, which was apparently 300 of these puppies. Over time, humans needed to measure bigger and longer things. So they began using their daily activities as
Evolution,
references, which was mostly
natural
just like a lot
selection.
of farming, like the acre, which was the amount of
Gotta
land that
measure.
a farmer could manage to plow in a day. Or the hundredweight, which was kind of how much a man could carry on his back comfortably. Because yeah, it's the same for everyone, right?
What say you, Corey?
So by the 1700s, there was like a billion ways of measuring things. But up here, they had a few popular
Billion.
ones. So you've got the foot, which was, well, the average length of a man's foot. This is a ruler that you always have handy with you. Handy. Hand, foot. Handy. Right?
Oh.
Should we keep that? And then you've got the inch, which in the 1300s was decreed as 3 grains of barley laid end to end.
From the midst of the ear. Right. Who knows what a barley corn is?
Super convenient, right? Who needs a measuring tape when you could just bring around a little pouch of all your barley corns to measure things with?
Yeah.
And then there was the yard, which was like the average measurement around someone's chest. And then
Yeah, I've been working out, so it's probably pretty big. 37. When I inhale, 39.
we need to standardize the yard using my body. And for a while there in England, it was
What
King
an
Henry's body, like the length from his nose to his
He must have been
thumb,
an
or,
insufferable
like, the length of his
narcissistic-
arm, that was used to derive all of these like yard-like measurements. It was his literal body. Like that's what they were using.
It came from King Henry the Eighth? Henry the First, who decreed that the yard should be the distance from the tip of the king's nose to the end of his outstretched thumb.
And then there's
Wow.
the mile, which is the distance covered by Roman soldiers walking 1,000 paces. They then somehow discovered that the mile was roughly about 8 furlongs. Furlongs, of course, being the distance that a team of oxen could plow without resting. The pound was defined as the weight of 7,000 grains. 6,987, 6,988. This is really terrible.
I don't think he's really counting.
Happening? I mean, all of these measurements seem
think he
so
counted.
tenuous and inconsistent, and they were. 6,999.
This is fake, Johnny.
7,000. We've got a pound, everyone. We've got a pound. It was madness. Meanwhile, down here in France in the late 1700s, they were dealing with their own madness, and it had nothing to do with
Cellos.
measurements. At this time, the French were beheading kings and queens, and they were drinking lots of coffee and sitting around in salons
Yeah, not
doing
tea.
science things. The people of France wanted to change just about everything, and the measurement systems were not off the table in these discussions. So in the middle of all of this enlightenment, they look at each other and they're like, why the hell are we using our forearms to measure stuff? They needed something precise, not like
They must have gotten really to start thinking about that. Hey, why is my hand like my hand? Why do we measure stuff with our body parts? I don't know. Bro, dude. Yeah.
are we using our forearms
That's
to
a
measure
lot of
stuff?
caffeine.
They
That's a
needed
lot of
something
caffeine.
Precise, not like barleycorns and forearms, but something that they could peg their new measurement system to that was an unchanging baseline. How about the literal planet we live on, said the coffee-drinking French science guys. We should measure
smart.
this distance right here and divide it by 10 a bunch of times and get a really
How do you
precise
do that,
unit
though?
of measure. So
I
that
don't
we don't
even-
have to
I wouldn't
use our
even know
feet
where to
and
begin.
arms. Great idea. But how the hell do you get this massive measurement in 1792? And the answer was this thing, plus some math. So these two French astronomers go out into the French countryside looking for high up places like hills or like castle towers.
How do you do it though?
And
Still,
then they
that
look
doesn't
through
explain
this
it.
fancy little platinum math telescope and measure the angles between 2 points out in the distance. This fancy telescope allows them to make this measurement without having to walk these whole distances.
The repeating circle is made of two telescopes mounted on a shared axis with scales to measure the angle between the two. The instrument combines multiple measurements to increase accuracy with the following procedure. Okay.
And in this way, they could start making little triangles across
Oh my
the
God,
French
that's so much math.
countryside. And then, using
Oh
some
my
basic
God.
math that we all learned in middle school, they could start to
Really?
calculate a hyper-accurate distance
geometry.
along this straight line. It took them 7 years to calculate all of this, but they got it.
I think I saw a video about that.
And once they
Madman
had this
did a
distance,
video
they were able
about
to
that, y'all.
calculate this distance between the North Pole and the equator, 1/4 of the Earth's circumference. So they took this line, this measurement, and they chopped it up into 10 million little parts. And one of those parts is called a meter. Like this is pegged to a real unchanging measurement that is our Earth. I mean, it'll change eventually, but not in our lifetime. The name meter comes from the Greek word metron, which means a measurement, which is just like super literal and precise and exactly what the
Uncreative.
French Enlightenment was all about.
Now here's what it's all about. The meter.
So now you have this meter, and if
The
you divide
meter.
this into 100 smaller units, you have a centimeter. So put 1,000 of these side by side, and you get yourself a kilometer, a kilometer.
The best part about the metric system is the time it saves in computation.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yo, it's so annoying. So, like this, every ruler and tape measure in the States has inches on one side and centimeters on the other side. It would be so nice to just have one. It would be so hard, though. It would be hard. This is making me sad.
It's all about tens. So if this measurement was 10 million of these, divide that by 1,000, you get 10,000 kilometers. Okay, so this is 10,000 kilometers. 1/4 of the Earth's circumference. 4 of these should be 40,000 kilometers. The Earth's circumference is 40,000 kilometers. Wait,
I don't
what?
think it is.
No, I don't want miles. Come on.
I don't think it is, y'all.
40,000. What's this extra 75 kilometers doing? Well, it turns out that one of these French astronomers actually made an error in his calculation, making the final meter about 0.2 millimeters shorter than it should have been. The guy quickly discovered this, like in the middle of it, but he didn't tell anyone because support for this new system was already really tenuous, and he didn't want anyone to have any more doubt or skepticism. So it turns out the metric system isn't literally perfect. Take that. Finding this measurement was the hardest part. Now that they have it, they were able to build an entire system purely based off of this. Let me show you. Okay, so now we want a unit for volume. Let's build a hypothetical cube that is 10 centimeters on all sides. Fill it up with liquid, and you have a liter. 1 liter. And from there, you can do the same thing that we did with meters. Centiliters, kiloliters, you name it. It's all tens, which makes it so much easier to convert between these different measurements. It's a lot easier than barley corns. Okay, so now we have a liter, which is a volume thing. Let's use this to make a unit for mass, AKA weight. I know they're different, but it's like the Earth's gravity makes weight and mass the same when you're on Earth, blah, blah, blah. I get it, commenters. I see you. I see you typing right now.
I'm not
Back off. You fill this liter with water, and now you have a kilogram. Divide that by 1,000, and you have a gram. Add 1,000 kilograms together, and you have a metric ton. I mean, it's simple. It's tens, it's hundreds, it's thousands.
Now, many calculations are merely a matter of moving the decimal point, not the pencil.
Okay, so now they have all these units that are scientific and standardized and founded on concepts of exact measurements. And this is really the first time that humans ever had this. The Frenchmen all looked at each other and like, good work, guys, we did it. The coffee helped. This is great. What should we call it?
The coffee did help. They must have had so much coffee.
Okay, cool, great system, but why don't I use the metric system? What happened? Well, that has to do with pirates and international politics. So France is like, this system works pretty damn well. We're impressed with ourselves. We should tell the rest of the world.
We did a great job.
So it's the late 1700s and France is going around country by country with a literal meter stick being like, hey guys, look what we invented. It's pegged to the earth. It's like literally like we measured this entire thing.
Hey guys, look.
Adopt it because it's really precise.
Hey guys,
it's
look.
It's gonna make international trade way more efficient.
Yeah.
And people were like, this is cool, but like we're a little skeptical. And meanwhile, in France, they were still kind of skeptical. The current leader at the time was this guy, Napoleon. We've all heard about him. And he was super into it. He's like, metric is awesome. You know what else he was into? Making sure everyone liked him. So when he saw that the French public wasn't super jazzed about uprooting what was working for them for like hundreds of years, he decided not to enforce metric by law. So France ended up in this weird limbo for like 30 years, and meanwhile the US is like looking from across the ocean, and they're like, dude, metric, it's a total fad. There's no way. Like Napoleon is like wishy-washy. There's no way this is actually gonna stick. Let's hold off on the whole metric thing and just industrialize with our very silly system that is built on like people's feet.
The metric system is
Thanks, Grandma, Grandpa.
My car gets 40 rods to the hog's head, and that's the way I likes it.
But we'll get back to the US in a minute because there's still hope. In the meantime, France finally gets fully on board and successfully sells not only their public on the metric system, but the world. They're like, come on guys, we sent 2 dudes out to do trigonometry with their golden telescopes for like 7 years for this shit. Trust me, you don't want to do that on your own. Adopt the system. It was a tough sell at first to get people to switch, but eventually they did. Started with Belgium, then the Netherlands and Luxembourg, then Algeria, a French colony, 20 years later. And then it kind of snowballed from there. Partly because countries realized how rational it was, but partly because Europe was taking over the world at this time and bringing their values and language and systems to every corner of the globe forcibly. Yes, colonialism will make it into every one of my videos. Okay, but what about the USA? Well, France had some beef with the US at this point. It's kind of a long story, not gonna go into it, but what's important to know is that the US was weirdly put in the middle between this like frenemy bromance gone wrong between France and England. So at first, America wasn't invited to the inner circle to be introduced to metric. But as the world was adopting metric, France finally decided to send a guy over to deliver this. A prototype of the almighty, ultra-logical kilogram, inviting the US to join the rest of the world in this measurement revolution.
What a gift.
For the USA to go metric.
What a pretentious
So this
gift.
French ship is
This
sailing
is
across
an
the
exact
Atlantic with the
measurement
kilogram
to
on board.
use it.
And a
You're
storm
welcome.
hits it and blows it into the Caribbean, where it runs into a group of British
Pirates.
The British
British
pirates capture the emissary from France, they imprison him, and they try to gain ransom from France for this guy. Well, they end up accidentally killing the French guy, but they notice that he has a package.
What?
And the pirates are like,
What
oh
happened?
shit.
They
This
killed
is addressed
him?
to the U.S. Secretary of State Thomas
Wait,
Jefferson.
they killed
Us
him?
Brits are cool with
Why'd they kill him? How did he die? It said they accidentally killed him. You can't just skip over that. In 1793, Thomas Jefferson requested a 1 kilogram copper cylinder from France to be used as a weight standard in adopting the metric system in the United States. So this is saying Thomas Jefferson requested it. The ship carrying the copper was blown off course into the Caribbean where it was looted by pirates. Okay, and go on. The French sent a scientist named Joseph Dombey off to Jefferson carrying the copper cylinder. The pirates took Joseph Dombey prisoner on the island of Montserrat, hoping to obtain a ransom for him. Unfortunately for the pirates and for Dombey as well, he died in captivity. How? It doesn't say. This just says he died. We know he died. You know, y'all, whenever you can't find how someone died, it usually means they pooped to death. And history is just being polite and helping people save face. I think Joseph Dombey pooped to death. His Wikipedia just says where he died. He pooped to death.
The British pirates capture the emissary from France, they imprison him, and they try to gain ransom from France for this guy. Well, they end up accidentally killing the French guy.
He pooped to
But
death.
They notice that he has a package, and the pirates are like, oh shit. This is addressed to the U.S. Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson. Us Brits are cool with the U.S. right now, so let's bring this over to New York and deliver it. Super courteous
What?
pirates.
Very polite pirates.
But when
They're
they get to
British.
New York, Thomas Jefferson isn't the Secretary of State
pirates
anymore.
are
So they just hand
polite.
it to the guy who is now the Secretary of State, Edmund Randolph. And Randolph's like, what the hell is this weird hunk of copper? So
They probably fed him jellied eel. That's why he pooped to death, y'all. They were British pirates. Jellied eel, diarrhea, killed Joseph Dombey. We figured it out. Make note right now.
Secretary of State, Edmund Randolph. And Randolph's like, what the hell is this weird hunk of copper? So then he gives it to this other guy who just keeps it. So yeah, thanks to geopolitics
Should've given it
and
to Thomas
pirates,
Jefferson
the
directly.
U.S. didn't get the kilo in time to convince them to maybe adopt France's new superlogical system of measurement.
Hey, pirates, you fucked it up. You gave it to the wrong person. Give it to the man, not the office. Right? The man, not the office. So they were British.
So yeah, thanks to geopolitics and pirates, the US didn't get the kilo in time to convince them to maybe adopt France's new superlogical system of measurement. Britain also refused for a long time, sticking with the system that was developed using some dude's foot, but eventually they got on board.
King
But
Henry
not
the
fully,
First's
they still
foot.
dabble in some weird old imperial ways. But
He
get
had a
this,
big foot.
They've changed some of the imperial things since the US became independent.
Foot.
Like their pint, which is like 25% bigger than the pint here.
Yeah,
They're both
what
called
the
the pint. But go get a pint of beer in the UK and you're actually getting 4 ounces
not
more than you
fair.
would in the US.
That's
As
what
if
it is.
having one highly illogical, unreliable measuring system, including feet and teaspoons, isn't bad enough. There are now 2 of them floating around that have the same names.
Great.
It gets real bad when you look at the ounce, which is a word that is used to define several different units of mass, weight, or volume.
Grandma, Grandpa, you set us up for failure. What the Thanks, Grandma, Grandpa. Way to go with the measurements. Now the world is a big cluster of shit, Grandma, Grandpa. An ounce is not just an ounce, y'all. That's so confusing. This confuses me. Why do we do this to ourselves? Again, thanks, Grandma, Grandpa. God damn it.
Several different units of mass, weight, or volume. Same word.
So annoying.
Bunch of different things.
So annoying.
Okay, but how hard can this be? This is my home turf. This is my measurement system. I got this.
He's pissed, y'all.
So an
He's
ounce
pissed.
in the UK is 1/20th an imperial pint. That seems nice and easy. That's 1/160th
I'm already
of an imperial gallon.
I'm already confused. 1/20th. Okay, hang on. UK Imperial. A fluid ounce is 1/20th. What now? Oh, I hate math, y'all. I'm not even gonna.
I got this. So an
I'm
ounce
gonna
in the
let him
UK is
handle it.
1/20th an imperial pint.
I'm not even
That
gonna
seems
pay
nice and
attention to what
easy.
he's.
That's
Doing, 'cause I'm gonna
1/60th
get
of an
confused.
imperial gallon, approximately. That's approximately 28.41
I'm not gonna listen.
milliliters.
I'm not gonna
Kinda
listen.
Gross. Okay, that's
I'm not listening.
imperial fluid ounce used in the UK.
Nope.
Okay, so then the US ounce is 1/16th of a US liquid pint,
Massively
which is 1/28th
confusing.
of a liquid gallon, which is exactly
Just get past it.
29.5735295625 milliliters, making it about 4.08% larger than the imperial fluid ounce used in the UK. Okay, but wait, this is just the fluid ounce. What about the weight ounce? The one that came from like the 7,000 grains to be a pound? So it's 7,000 grains to a pound, and there's 16 ounces to that pound, so that's 437.5 grains to an ounce. But if I want to convert the weight ounce to the fluid ounce, I just need to multiply the volume by 1.043176 times the density of the ingredient or material, so that we can easily switch between the fluid ounce and the weight ounce and the pound with the 700,000 grains.
Don't put that in my brain, Johnny.
1/16th of a pound is the ounce. The grains are 437.5. Just convert it
See?
with Google, and you got it. Just super easy.
Yeah. That's why we have robots.
Yeah, that's where we're at. It's a total mess.
You know how many feet there are in a mile?
3,000 something.
Every country on Earth adopted the metric system eventually, besides these three countries: the US, Myanmar, and Liberia.
United States just gave the rest of the world big finger and said, your metric system.
Over the years, the US has attempted really formally
I
to
love
go
Wanda
metric.
Sykes.
Like in the
I
70s
love
and
her
80s,
voice.
there was all these debates, and there was boards created by the government to find a way to like migrate over to metric. But of course, Ronald Reagan shut it down because of, you know, that whole government spending thing. This was an actual public debate. Like this documentary I keep showing was from a like PSA trying to convince people to like.
Look, I wish Ronald did it back then. I think it would be great. It would be so simple. But I don't want to be part of the society that has to switch over. I don't want to switch. I don't want to change. Damn it. Thanks, Grandma, Grandpa.
Like this documentary I keep showing was from a like PSA trying to convince people to like get on board with metric. And then on the other side, in the 80s, there was this anti-metric group. Yes, anti-metric groups, that was a thing. They even hosted a gala where they featured the most beautiful foot contest. They just love American culture.
Why?
Just love to
What are you
stick it to
doing?
people. Just look at us being individuals in our own way.
Who was behind that? Because that's some nihilists or aliens, reptiles, ghosts and robots, Sasquatch, Yeti, Abadominal, Snowman.
Sure. Just love to stick it to people. Just look at us being individuals in our own way.
USA, USA, USA.
But this stuff actually matters, okay? In 1999, NASA sent a satellite to Mars, and it went off course and burned up in the planet's atmosphere, all because of a misconversion between units of measure. One of the contractors was using imperial units, while NASA ground was using metric, and it ended up costing NASA $125 million.
UCLA. How much is tuition at UCLA? For liberal arts, not even rocket science, just regular tuition. Out of state, $67,052. In state, a big deal, bargain. Oh, that's actually, after aid. 36 grand before aid. That's 11 grand after aid. Y'all, am I going to UCLA? That's not bad. Do I need to hire myself out to adopt a high school child so they can afford to go to college? I shouldn't be recording these thoughts out loud. I'll research this later.
Ground was using metric, and it ended up costing NASA $125 million. But what's interesting is that the US has kind of secretly, quietly got on board with metric. But it's just sort of behind the scenes in boring sectors that none of us really think about and that don't actually make it into
$125 million. You That's 98,740,075 pounds. Quid. Thanks, Grandma, Grandpa. Thanks.
Interesting is that the US has kind of secretly, quietly got on board with metric. But it's just sort of behind the scenes in boring sectors that none of us really think about and that don't actually make it into all of our intuitions. Like industry or the federal government or like nutrition labels. I don't look at nutrition labels,
those have
but if
like
I
grams
did,
and stuff.
I would see grams and milligrams. And on liquid-based things, I would see milliliters. Because nutrition labels are in metric. It doesn't matter that
That's
I don't really
right.
know what a
That's
gram
right.
or a kilogram or a milligram even is. But when I go to the pharmacy, the
Actually, I
pharmacist
know what
gives
a
me
gram
my
is.
medicine in milligrams. Progress. So yeah,
He's
it's
eating
pharmaceuticals,
Doritos?
it's nutrition, it's
Johnny.
film, it's tools, it's...
I'm sorry. I'm not even listening to what he's saying right now. I'm having my own thoughts. Johnny, you're eating Doritos? I feel like Johnny knows better than to eat Doritos. I love Doritos. But he should know better, right? It's really unhealthy, Johnny. I love Doritos. Should I go get Doritos? I don't have Doritos. I have chili lime things. Y'all, these. Okay. Now I feel like I'm part of the conversation with you, Johnny.
It doesn't matter that I don't really know what a gram or a kilogram or a milligram even is.
8 grams of fat. Mmm.
So
He's
yeah,
using
pharmaceuticals-
chopsticks too. He's using chopsticks to eat Doritos. Yo, I have chopsticks. Oh yeah. It is nice not to get the powder on my fingers. Chopsticks.
So yeah, it's pharmaceuticals, it's nutrition, it's film, it's tools, it's bicycles, it's running races. Oh, and for some reason, this one highway sign in Arizona. For all of these efforts, none of them have succeeded in getting metric into the
Really?
brains.
Where was that?
For all,
Ahoy. Why is that there?
for all of these efforts, none of them have succeeded in getting metric into the brains of everyday people like me. And this is why I will never use the metric system. I can't. I literally cannot. You don't realize how your intuition is calibrated in certain systems of measurements until you try to change it. I started traveling in my early 20s, really for the first time abroad. And I saw them using metric. And I saw how easy it was and how rational it was. And I made a commitment to myself. I'm like, I'm gonna change from my imperial intuition to adopting metric. And I even swore, like, I'm going to teach my future children metric from an early age. And since then, over a decade, I have been trying. I look at this distance and to me, oh, that's 10 meters away, not 30 feet. It feels like it's 20 degrees Celsius outside right now, I would say.
I don't think I could
yeah,
do
it's
that.
like 5 kilometers down the road. Oh, I'm gonna pick up 2 kilos of short rib to make the soup tonight. But my dirty little secret is that I've totally been faking it. 10 meters doesn't mean anything to me. What it means is 30 feet divided by 3. What I've really been doing this whole time is intuitively estimating things based on the system I know, which is pegged to farming activities and body parts, and then doing the rough math based on the numbers I know about converting to metric.
Yeah,
Without those
right.
conversion numbers, I honestly cannot estimate what 50 meters looks like. I can't grasp what running 5 kilometers feels like. I don't know what 22 centimeters is outside.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think I could change. It would be so hard. This has gone off the rails.
Outside of the context of a 1 foot long ruler that I know is 30 centimeters. And so I'll never use the metric system. I don't know how. And I can't teach myself. I've tried. But then I had kids. There is hope. The next generation. I vowed to instill them with metric intuition and
Okay,
found
that's
that
a
it's
good
basically
idea.
been impossible because everything they're exposed to at school, in math, on road trips while we're driving, all of it is in feet and miles and cups and pints and teaspoons and tons. I mean, I try. I tell my kid measurements in like meters, and my 6-year-old will literally respond with, well, how far is that in feet? He is 6. Like, this isn't happening.
dang.
The ship has sailed on changing to metric here in the US for everyday people. It'll likely never happen. I'm trapped in a system that was developed using people's body parts and farming activities and King Henry's arm.
It's fun.
We interrupt this film to bring you a special bulletin from Metric News.
As America moves toward the metric system, the last holdouts have been seen finally.
He's right, y'all. I don't think I could do it. I mean, I have a reference for grams and centimeters, maybe a meter. My concept of distance is 100 yards. Like, how many football fields? Just because I was on a football field, not playing football. I was a band dork. Let's give it up for Johnny Harris. Yo, he always has an opinion. I admire that, and I admire his thoroughness. I like the way he edits his videos. It feels like a high-dollar production, you know? Little animations. It's these people that are on the screen. Great work, y'all. Johnny Harris, Alex Kennel, Jack Joyce, and Brendan Morris did the editing and the animation, y'all. That's amazing. Nick Tucker filmed it. Iz Harris is the executive producer. is that his wife? Music by Tom Fox, and operations by Laura Chernikoff and Taryn Gray. They're doing operations on set, y'all, like appendectomies and kidney removals. That's hardcore. Great work, Laura and Taryn. I just want to sum it up once again by saying thanks, Grandma, Grandpa. Thanks. Thanks a lot. It is nice to know that I always know how much a foot is. It's on my body. And it's exact. Arguable in a court of law in the States. Well, thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.